Hey everybody, this is Chris from Skeleton Team. I just wanted to record a quick video here to kind of walk you through some of the big changes that are happening to Skeleton behind the scenes right now. If you've been keeping up with our announcement channels through Discord or GitHub or on Twitter, you may have seen that we put out a new post here recently that talked about Skeleton v3, or as we're dubbing it internally, Skeleton Next. Next represents sort of the next major iteration of Skeleton, the next evolution of the library, and it really, signifies a major step forward for the project. These are, it's drawing from ideas and concepts that we've been brainstorming for, in some cases, months, if not, years, even since like early days of the Skeleton project. So, you know, the general idea is we wanted to pull all of those ideas together, create a proposal, present that to everybody in the community so that you could have a chance to chime in, provide your feedback, questions, and just really help influence the future direction of the entire project. Because we're not building this for ourselves, we're building it for, you or our end users. So with that said, like I said, we created this post that shares just a kind of a quick rundown of some of the biggest changes that are coming. It's summarized here, a kind of quick FAQ, and more importantly, a link to our proposal here. The proposal kind of goes in depth. So if you're looking for the, let's call it detailed deep dive into what we're expecting to see update and change, this is where you want to go. And this covers a variety of topics, from our goals to the general kind of fundamentals of things that are changing, links to the issues on GitHub that are related to those changes if you'd like to follow along with that. We also talk about some of the kind of general overall structural changes coming to Skeleton, the general architecture of the project itself, and how we're kind of breaking things up and rearranging things. So I'm not going to spend too much time in this video going over all of those points. Again, it's all noted in here if you really want to see that. But I do want to call your attention to this just because, again, we've provided a lot of information here, and it's a big information dump, I know. But there's a lot of really cool details in here if you have the chance to kind of read through. I will kind of highlight a couple of the biggest changes, though, just so that those things are on your radar. Obviously the goal here, as stated on the screen, is, we're kind of rethinking Skeleton as if we were building it today. It's next month marks the 2-year anniversary of Skeleton, coming to being created and coming into the world. And so we wanted to really, take a step back, look at all the changes that have happened in the front end space, not just within the Svelte world, but in with, the front end world in general. And just maybe kind of brainstorm how would we approach this and how would we do things differently if we were starting fresh. Now, clearly we have a lot to build on. We're not starting completely from the ground up, but this does provide, a really nice way to approach and rethink some of the core concepts of the entire project. So with that, we're going to have a more modular structure, which I'll talk about in just a moment. We are looking to go framework agnostic, which is a big change. If you've been part of Skeleton or if you use Skeleton, you know that currently we target pretty much only Svelte. In fact, if I pull up the website here, you're going to see, we put that front and center. It's Svelte and Tailwind. It's the two technologies that Skeleton is built on. And while we still are going to continue using those and embracing those, and even branching into Svelte 5, which is right around the corner, we are going to be looking to introduce React as a new option for Skeleton. React has a long legacy in the front end space, hugely popular, very well lots of adoption in the front end space with that. It's a known quantity kind of thing, and we're not looking at just React. We are looking at React being the first of many step forwards towards many other frameworks. That might include things like Vue or Solid or whatever comes next kind of thing. We're starting React with React specifically because, for one, the scale and size is really impressive. There's a huge audience to kind of put this out, and we feel like if we're going to reach the largest group we can, let's shoot for the big fish, right? And so, with that in mind, the hope is we put this out there and we get even just a splash in the huge React ecosystem. We're not expecting ourselves to be the next MUI or Mantine or ShadCN or any of these options that are out there today. We're just simply trying to provide the cool, unique features that Skeleton brings to the table to a larger audience. And so it's our hope that will bring in a lot more contributors, a lot more people finding bugs, using the project, and just really help push it forwards for everyone. We'll talk through the modular structure in a moment, and again, that'll kind of highlight some of the reasons for this, and also the way we're approaching that. A couple other things. Again, I'm going to go through these a little quick. But we are looking to update the theme system. The theme system as it exists in Skeleton currently is mostly unchanged, other than some refinement from like the pre-release V1 days. And so even with V2, we improved the onboarding experience, but not the feature set of themes. And so V3 is a chance for us to go and revisit that and really kind of build out our design tokens, provide more options for things like margins, paddings, typographical scales, you name it, we're going to try to get it in there. And it's going to be much more flexible, and alongside that, the theme generator itself, much more powerful and much more capable. We may grow that even further as well. The theme generator, the goal is to separate that out to its own application that's standalone, with the goal of really building that out to maybe have things like persistence, so you can build and maintain your own set of themes within that application, and then even potentially be able to share those publicly with others at some point in the future. So not things you'll see probably in the first phase, but just stuff we're building towards. Additionally, with the change from going from here in the documentation, going from Svelte only to Svelte and React and potentially Vue and others over time, our documentation that we have is currently built with Svelte and SvelteKit, which means that's not really going to work if we want to be able to showcase React components or Vue components or what have you going forward. So we're going to be looking to expand to Astro, which hopefully many of you are familiar with. It's a really great tool. It supports just a number of different UI libraries, all in parallel. It's great. It's based on Vite, so if you are familiar with SvelteKit or you're familiar with like a Next.js in the React world, then it should feel somewhat familiar with like the directory structures and things like that. So it's a very cool tool. Will allow us to allow all those tools to run in parallel so that we can show live examples for each of the components running at the same time. We're going to continue to support dark mode. In fact, we're kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit with some of these things, because there are things in V2 and V1 that were not really implemented in the way that Tailwind expects them, which makes, if you've ever gone down the road of trying to support the OS preference for switching between your light and dark mode when you change that in the operating system that you're running, it's a bit of a headache right now. So we're going to go back and make some changes just from the ground up to help make that just simpler and easier to do. And it'll basically allow you to use either the operating system option or the class strategy that we use today, just at a whim, whichever you prefer. Figma design assets. So this is another big one here. We've had a lot of interest from folks that have come in and said, either I'm a designer or I have a designer on my team that would really like assets to be able to kind of prep and plan our new skeleton website before we start building it. And so there's a really great third-party option available right now from a community member, a guy named Micah. If you have not seen that, I will give it a quick shout out here just so you have access to it. Just right here, this Figma page. There's a link to it right there. This has been a great way for people to kind of get their feet wet with some design assets and things like that. But as part of the next initiative, we're trying to really kind of bring that in house and build out something first class, high quality, and just at the level that you would expect for professional work. And then Skeleton's big on accessibility. That's always been the case. That's not going away. We're just going to continue going even further down that path with changes that are specific to components and themes that will help improve some of that stuff. Some new standard approach and things like that. We're also going to look at offering additional options for internationalization. So currently Skeleton has some basic level of this, but there's room for us to go a little bit further. So just some things to read there if you'd like to see kind of what that might include. Of course, there's a lot of big changes coming here, and so as part of that, we're going to look to rewrite and refactor a lot of Skeleton. The reason that's kind of pushing us in this direction is not just the introduction of additional frameworks, but also the fact that Svelte 5 is right around the corner. And while we're very excited about Svelte 5, it does represent a pretty notable API change to, syntax change to Svelte itself. And so we're going to just kind of fully embrace that right out of the gate. All components for Svelte are going to be written with Svelte 5 compatibility right out of the gate. So we get access to new features like runes and snippets and things like that. Just right out of the box, which will be really cool. Some aesthetic changes, which just kind of quick shout out. We have a follow-up video to this one coming out here shortly that will cover some of the design changes that you might expect soon. Some CLI changes, obviously. We're going to, in order to support all of these different frameworks, we're going to have to make some changes there. There's still some work in progress going on here. Don't mind our mess kind of thing. Likewise, we are looking for additional tooling, maybe like a VS Code extension that might be added to just help augment some of the things. So if you are not installing the project through a CLI, you're installing it manually, we still want to provide some of the cool tooling that the CLI provides you. And a VS Code extension might be a way for us to standardize that and maybe even build over time to add really cool features. The last thing I'll really kind of cover here in depth is just going to be the architectural change. This is, if you haven't seen it, this is what sort of the structure for Skeleton looks like today. On the left, you have what we currently have is the core library, as we call it, the /skeleton package. That is basically all of our Svelte features today. That's the components, actions, utilities, anything that's specific to Svelte is part of the core. Whereas we have split off our Tailwind plugin, TW plugin, as its own sort of standalone package so that we can maintain that separately. Because while the two seem very they are used in conjunction currently, they can handle very different things. So, on the plugin side, that's everything from your theme system to design tokens to element styles to pretty much anything Tailwind related kind of goes into that bucket. And this works and this is great, but there are some downsides to this approach, which I'll kind of highlight here in this next slide. So this is essentially covering what we expect or what we're building towards with Next and V3 specifically. So you'll see there's kind of immediately the core has been flipped. So there's the component side and the Tailwind side have been flipped. The core now represents the Tailwind plugin, all those things that we just talked about, as well as maybe some room for some common features that are shared between every instance of Skeleton installed between Svelte and React, or insert other tooling. We're also going to look to have a more modular approach to the components themselves, where it's sort of like insert your option of choice. So you can either choose to just use the core by itself and you get access to themes and buttons and card styles and all those things, or you can introduce components as alongside that for functional features alongside that. So that's going to include your components, your actions in Svelte. It's going to include components in React or hooks potentially, and so on and so forth for each additional library. And you can kind of see the way we have it broke down. Initially, we're going to have first-party support for these two options, the Svelte and React world, but we are very interested in expanding to others going down the road. And if we can't get there fast enough, then, folks in the community are welcome to step in, and we'll provide some support to kind of get a non-official or, community-based solution in place for Vue or what have you. The other kind of notable portion here is there's several portions that are part of Skeleton today that we're going to break off and allow to live separately. Think of these less as necessarily plugins and more of integrations. So things like Floating UI, which is the library that powers pop-ups, Highlight.js for code blocks, and then insert other options as we kind of go down this path. But these are features that are somewhat framework specific in the way they're implemented, and so we want to try to separate those things out that are going to be, they won't play well with between all the different frameworks, and still provide really nice integrations and solutions for those, but allow them to be opt-in so that you only install and you use those features if you need them, if you want them, while still leaning into the full power of each parent package itself, as you will. So fairly notable change to the architecture, but it does provide this really kind of cool system where you can either drop in the Svelte components as part of your Svelte kit application, or the React components as part of your Next.js application, and then so on and so forth, Next and what have you. We go into detail about what we're kind of expecting in each package. We talk a little bit through the community stuff if you're interested in maybe kind of participating or contributing to any of that. We also cover like what meta frameworks we're looking to cover. That's things like SvelteKit and Next.js, maybe Remix in the React world, stuff like that. So we're looking to expand those. It won't just be SvelteKit as v2 currently supports today. We'll support many, many more options, including potentially Astro, which we'll be using for our documentation. It's not a priority, but it's something that we might kind of just do along the side. And then we talk through the kind of plugins and integration stuff I just covered just a moment ago. So again, I'll kind of skim through all of this. We've kind of talked through some of the major points here, but I do want to highlight towards the bottom here, if you're kind of curious of like, this sounds like a lot of big ideas, but what does it look like in practice? We've gone ahead and created a prototype that kind of helps showcase some of this. And it is very much a prototype. It looks like a prototype. It's not, the most aesthetically pleasing thing you will see in the world. It does not represent the new design direction with Skeleton. We just wanted to show what it would look like to have a few different components from a couple different frameworks running in parallel. And so we have a bare minimum example that shows like a card component, which is not something we'd actually implement, but just for a bare minimum component that we could create that would have some kind of semantic meaning, we've implemented that. And so you can see here's the Svelte iteration, here's the React implementation. Looks exactly the same. We've just changed the background color, obviously. But feature-wise, they functionally do the same thing, and they are built with their own respective framework. And so you can click the implementation to see what it looks like. This is how you implement the card in Svelte. This is how you implement the card in React, and kind of see that they have a very similar syntax. We've really put a lot of effort into standardizing the props and the structures of the components to make sure that if you are transitioning from one to the other, it should still feel, in the ballpark familiar. The follow-up video that I talked about earlier will cover some of these things in more detail then. Likewise, if you want to see the source for how we're actually implementing these, you want to see what a Svelte 5 component looks like, you can see that implemented here. You want to see our approach to implementing React components. You can see that implemented here. All of that is included. We have, like I said, both the card and an accordion, which is a little bit higher fidelity, has a little more complexity to it. Again, the style is not does not represent the final design, but just gives you some functional examples of what Svelte code and React code look like running in parallel as part of the same kind of overall system. So again, the design's not great, but that's some of the stuff we're still working on. We just wanted to tackle the implementation and the technical side, and that's exactly what this prototype shows. So if you want to see that's linked in the prototype. It's linked in the proposal post on GitHub here. You can see that. And then likewise, this GitHub link is shared in both places, which links to the prototype repo on GitHub. So if you want to see, it's called Skeleton Next. So if you want to see the prototype, you want to clone it down, you want to run it, you want to tinker with the code, we provided this prototype publicly so that you can do so. There's a couple pull requests still pending for a couple of the team members trying to testing adding new components just to see like how does an avatar work with this new approach, how does an app bar work with this new approach. So if you want to see some of the kind of cutting edge stuff that's coming, you can see those are pending as well. Beyond all that, there's just a couple more points I want to go over real quick. One is, the team and I are very knowledgeable in a lot of different regards when it comes to Svelte and some of this design systems and things like that. But we don't know everything, so we are looking to expand the team and contributors and volunteers to include a few specialized users that help us just be the experts in the areas that we do not have yet covered. So if you are a React expert, for example, we are looking for help from you, or if you know somebody that is, please recommend our way. Likewise, creating those Figma assets, it's something we internally are starting, and it's already in progress, but we would love to have somebody that can come in and take ownership and kind of just run with that while we're specifically building some of the technical side of this out. Other than that, just anybody that's experts in accessibility or copywriters for documentation, we'd love to hear from you, and anybody that has experience with internationalization, either functionally on how to implement and or if you are an expert in a particular language and maybe interested in helping translate to your native language. We would really appreciate the help from all those. You can contact us either on GitHub or through Discord, and we've provided some information here for you if you'd like to do that. And then finally, just to kind of wrap up here, I mentioned earlier we had the RFC post. You can just go to the Skeleton Discord, click the discussions, or excuse me, GitHub discussions, and click this pinned post here for the request for comment. And that covers pretty much everything we just talked about, includes links to the proposal, to the prototype, to the source code, kind of a short rundown, maybe answer some of the questions you might have, and provide the space for you to provide your comments to us. In addition to GitHub, we also have our Discord here where you can come in and jump into the Skeleton Next RFC channel and ask your question. Raise some point of something that's not clear or something we've missed in the prototype, or maybe an edge case that we may not have thought about, and just let us give us a chance to kind of cover that for you. Finally, the last little bit I'll show you is you come to the Skeleton repository here and go to issues. We do have a milestone set up here. You can click milestones v3, and that will show you a list of all of the different issues that we're tracking as we progress forward on this. Most of this is obviously the components and features themselves that we're planning to port over. So if you're curious to see, I don't know, what we're planning to do for the theme generator, you can open that and see kind of a bulleted list of the changes that we have proposed. And this includes changes not just from us, the maintainers, but also from community members and even like bugs and issues that have been filed that we're going to look to address as we move forward. So if you're interested in any of that, please do check out any of those resources. Please do reach out and let us know what you think. And just generally, we're really hoping that you're excited as we are for what this is going to bring to the table. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Just reach out and let us know what you think. Thanks, everyone.